or Something in Between by Melissa de la Cruz. And I'm actually on the very last part of this book. There's 3 parts to this book, kind of like the last book I did where it's separated into like separate parts. And this one that I'm currently on is called American Dream. So there's 3 different parts, and they all kind of like show different phases of this girl's life. So our main character's name is Jasmine, and I actually was inspired to get this book because Jasmine is Filipino. So I had a few students this year and last year that were Filipino American or were actually from the Philippines. So this is what inspired me to get this book. This book is called Something in Between because the character, Jasmine, she feels like she's in between identifying herself as Filipino, but also identifying herself as an American. And the big thing with this book, obviously, is going to be about kind of like how immigrants feel in America and how they interact with the people around them, and how they can sometimes feel like they're a part of America and that American dream, and sometimes they kind of feel like they're an outcast and that people don't accept them for who they are. So this book is obviously really important. It's still part of my diversity picks, obviously because she's Filipino American, but also because this kind of centers itself on immigration and how immigrants feel in our country. So it's actually a little bit lengthy of a book. This one's 419 pages, I think. But it was something that, like, when I picked it up, I didn't want to stop reading it. So, hi. So this one is really, really important for anybody to read. It has a little bit of everything. She's a really funny character. So I think everybody would find her pretty hilarious. I'm going to read you the description, and when I tell you, when I get to the part about her being a cheerleader, don't think that this is your typical, like, OMG cheerleader, like, super girly girl cheerleader. She'll explain to you in this book why, like, cheerleading is important to her, but it's not centered on cheerleading, okay? So, this book is mostly centered on like political stuff, which can sound kind of boring, but it's really interesting for our world today. So this is realistic fiction because it's something that could actually happen, but didn't happen exactly the way that it says. And there's also an author's note that I'll read because I think it's really important, just like I usually say for these books. So Something in Between, the description on the back. Dad opens the envelope slowly. Mom leans over his shoulder. They are completely silent as they read the letter. I expected my father to jump up from the table and hug me, and my mother to scream and start calling all my aunties to brag about me. But neither of them are saying anything. In fact, they look like they just received the worst kind of news instead of the best news ever. What's going on? So overall, Jasmine, who immigrated with her family from the Philippines whenever she was little, and her brothers, she has 2 brothers, were little. When they get to America, their American dream is realized, meaning that she feels like she's going to have the advantages of going to good schools, and then one day that she'll be able to make her parents proud by becoming something one day to help her parents bring them out of their poorness. Because when they came to America, they came on work visas, which means that they were there specifically to work. They weren't considered American citizens, but they're allowed to stay in the country as long as they're working in the country with the job that they were approved. But what Jasmine doesn't know is that when they came to America, yes, they were on those work visas. That was legal. But eventually, the place of work that they're at ends up not being like an actual job anymore. They have to find other jobs. And so they have the choice of either going back to the Philippines, since they technically aren't legally working there anymore, or they can try to find a job and still keep their family in America. So they actually forge papers and they choose to stay in America, but they don't tell Jasmine. So now Jasmine has gone through high school and she is a senior and she's looking to apply to colleges. She actually gets a National Scholar Award, which means that she has a full ride paid for to any school that she chooses, even an Ivy League school, and she really wants to go to Stanford. And so when she's filling out the paper to accept the award so that she can get all the money, her parents have to sit her down and tell her, actually, we're not legal immigrants of the United States. We stayed here so that you could try to get a better life, and we didn't know that you wouldn't be able to accept this award. So she's caught somewhere in between, feeling like she belongs here because it's the only home that she's really ever known. She doesn't speak her Filipino language tag along or anything like that. So that's where we start at, and I'm going to read y'all the first chapter, and then I'm going to read the author's note. At the beginning of each chapter, I love it because there's a quote at the top of each chapter. She tells you later that she loves collecting quotes and putting them on a board in her room. So chapter 1, the quote is, "The truth is, immigrants tend to be more American than people born here. Chuck Palahniuk choke. First, you have to hollow out. Suck your belly button back against your spine. Pull up towards your rib cage. Maintain eye contact. Remember to breathe. Feel your muscles tighten. Make yourself compact. Lift up. Fly. Attitude is everything. Believe you can do that stunt. Stay tight. Smile. Keep everything together as you're twisting through the air. Trust yourself. Trust your team. Let doubt creep in and you'll fall. Plus, you'll let down the whole squad. And that's the worst thing you can do as cheer captain, other than bossing around everyone like an aggro queen bee. There's no one more intense than a cheerleader. Although, according to every Hollywood movie ever made, we're a bunch of ditzy, boy-crazy backstabbers. As if. Don't they get it? Cheerleaders are part of a team, and a good team trusts each other. Because the only thing stopping you from cracking your head open on the gym floor is your teammates. Cheer makes you tough, loyal, strong. Hit, 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 pull. Coach Davis shouts, her voice echoing against the gym walls. We jump 3 times in a row, extending our arms and legs perfect toe touches. Then tuck, flipping backwards onto the mats. Everyone sticks the tuck except for Kayla. She's been struggling with her tumbling even though she used to be one of the best tumblers on the team. Her mind has been somewhere else for a while, worried about her parents who aren't getting along too well. I make a mental note to ask her how she's doing after practice. Maybe offer to help her brush up on some of her moves before she gets put on probation or kicked off the squad. She's my best friend, but we haven't hung out much since I've been studying for midterms and trying to get my college applications done. Keep your feet together, Santos, Coach barks at me. They're wobbling on your landing. I nod, even though I'm annoyed that she singled me out and didn't say anything to Kayla. I know Coach is bringing me down a notch on purpose. She doesn't want me to end up with an oversized ego. That's why I got voted captain in the first place. I know you have to sacrifice yourself for the team, for the stunt, or else everything falls apart like a crumbling pyramid. Sometimes the other girls tease me. You're so perfect, Jasmine. You do everything right. You were junior class president, cheer captain, honor roll, volunteering. Don't you ever get tired? Never, I say with a smile. Except the truth is, I'm always tired, but I can't ever admit it. Not to my friends, especially not to my family. Let's run through the routine until the end of practice, Coach orders. She walks over to the sound system to start the music. Most of the girls start taking their positions, but Emily crosses her arms. I'm exhausted. I don't know if I can do this anymore. Her cheeks are flaming red on her Irish complexion. Don't be a drama queen, Deandra says, whipping her dark braids like the Queen of the Nile. She looks like Halle Berry, but prettier, with gorgeous, naturally thick eyelashes. You're only tired because you stayed up texting Brandon all night. I tell them to hush. It's my senior year and last chance to win at nationals. If we want to win this time, the whole team has to be serious about practice. We don't have any time not to be on point. Positions, I yell out. Coach nods and I count down to begin the routine. 5, 6, 7, 8. Music blasts from the speakers. Our routine begins with high-intensity tumbling. We sprint across the mats, propelling our bodies through the air, hitting our handsprings, layouts, and tucks right on the beat. The girls are getting even more pumped as they move into formation for the flyer stunts. I step up onto my bases, let them propel me into a barrel roll, and fall back into their cradle. The stunts are getting more and more complex, and one of our flyers loses her balance during a dismount on a pyramid, smacking against her back spotter and sending her to the ground. The bases help the spotter back up. Coach stops the mix. She's frowning. We got this. Come on, ladies, I shout. Again from the beginning. We practice our routine over and over until all of the flyers are hitting their stunts. Our muscles ache and our arms are slick with sweat. But the better we get, the more pumped we are. So by the end of practice, everyone is cheering louder, staying tighter, and flying higher. That's more like it. We're about to go through our last run when Mrs. Garcia pushes through the swing doors and power walks towards us. Her scuffed pleather heels thump against the wood floors. Weird. What's the college counselor doing at cheer practice? Everyone else must have noticed her too, because they're all chatting and whispering instead of getting into their positions. Coach catches her eye and turns to us. Ladies, listen up. I want you to pair up and practice your back walkovers, back tucks, and then cool down with stretches and splits, holding each side for 30 seconds each. Spot for each other. Start slow. Keep them in control. As she joins Mrs. Garcia, I pair up with Kayla and help her slowly ease into a back bend. She tries to kick up with her foot but can't catch the momentum, so I help guide her through the move. Kayla Paredes is a curvy with a tiny waist, curly dark hair, and quick smile. Boys have been worshiping at her feet since we were 12, but she tires of them easily. She's fifth-generation Mexican-American, which means she learned Spanish in class just like I did. Movie night on Friday, she asks. My house? I'm about to say no, I have to study, but it's been ages and we need to catch up. Perfect, I tell her. I'll have to clear it with my mom, but it should be okay. Let's make chocolate chip cookies. With extra chocolate chips, Kayla grins. After a couple minutes, Coach calls out to me. Santos, Miss Garcia needs a word with you. Me? Is something wrong? Uncertainty creeps into my stomach. It's October and I've been trying to narrow down my list of colleges. Did I miss an early application deadline? I've been going to Mrs. Garcia's office every couple of weeks since junior year to make sure I'm on track. Could she have forgotten to tell me something important? I help Kayla up before walking over, trying not to look too worried. Coach winks at me as she passes by on her way to the group and I'm relieved. This can only mean something good. I have something special for you, Mrs. Garcia says as she hands me the envelope. She folds her arms, a slight smile turning up in the corners of her mouth. My heart begins to beat when I see a fancy logo printed in official navy blue ink on the top right-hand corner. United States National Scholarship Program, Department of Education. Somehow, I know that I'm holding my future in my hands. The one I've worked so hard for. The one my parents have dreamed of ever since we moved here from the Philippines when I was only 9 years old. Danny was a toddler and Isco was still a newborn. I remember holding Danny's hand on the plane when my mom cradled Isco in her lap as the plane rushed down the runway, lifting off toward America. I wrote about it on my application essay, how one of my earliest memories is of looking out the window in our first house in California, at the bright lights and the stark silhouette of palm trees, and how different it was from the view of the green and wet mountains in our house in Antipolo, where it was always muggy and raining, and we often kept the mosquito screens closed. I've come to think of America as an open window, open to new possibilities, to the new life promised to those who journey them far away from its shores. The National Scholarship Award is one of the most prestigious in the nation, bestowed upon only the top high school students, the best of the best, who are chosen not only on their grades and scores, but on their personal essays and teacher recommendations. It's a bit like applying to college, I guess, but it's even harder than getting into the Ivy League. I worked so hard on my applications and I want it so badly. Now that it's here, I'm shaking. Mrs. Garcia puts her hands on my shoulders, startling me back to the present. I'm so proud of you, she says like I'm her own daughter. I tear the envelope open, nearly ripping the letter apart. As I unfold the letter, my eyes drift to the signature at the bottom. It's actually signed, not printed, by the President of the United States. I return to the top and begin reading the body of the letter. Dear Miss De Los Santos, I am pleased to offer you a National Scholarship Award in recognition of your outstanding academic achievement. The award includes a financial grant covering 4 years of tuition to the college of your choice. Only 300 students out of thousands of highly qualified applicants are chosen each year, making the award one of the most competitive in the nation. You are among a select group of astonishing young people who by the age of 16 and 17 have not only succeeded academically, but have conducted innovative medical research, played with the Los Angeles Philharmonic, competed in the Olympics, launched companies, volunteered for international social service organizations, and more. National scholars go on to our nation's top universities and use their gifts to improve both our country and the world. It is my distinct pleasure to invite you to attend the National Scholarship Recognition Program to celebrate your achievement and meet with government officials educators, musicians, scientists, business leaders, and past scholars. You will also have the opportunity to visit historic museums and monuments, as well as to attend recitals, receptions, and official ceremonies as guests of the Department of Education. Please complete and return the form included with this letter. Additional details about the trip to Washington, D.C. will be sent within the following weeks. Congratulations! I'm looking forward to being able to see what you'll do to make a brighter future for our country. Yours, the President of the United States. I can't even breathe. This is the happiest day of my life. Everything I've given up, the hours of sleep, the driver's license because my parents won't allow me to learn, all the parties I've never attended, the fun I've never had. Nothing compares to this scholarship. Mrs. Garcia shuffles against the gym floor, leaving small smudges on the wood. This is a huge deal, Jasmine. There hasn't been a national scholar from our town as long as I've been here. It's the highest honor a student can be awarded. A full ride to any college of my choice. My parents won't have to worry about not being able to afford tuition. It almost takes my breath away. I can see it so clearly. My future. College. Graduate school. I don't know yet what I want to do, but I know that winning at the mediocrity is my American dream. A successful career and a handsome husband. A family. I'm old-fashioned that way, maybe because I'm Filipino, but ever since I was a kid, I've wanted a family of my own and a marriage like the ones my parents share. Corny, I know. But hey, I'm an American girl and I want it all. I worked hard for this, gave up everything. Some of my friends tease that I'm 17 going on 35. It doesn't matter now. What's certain is that I'm not going to be stuck with my parents' limited options. My mom graduated top of her class in the Philippines, but in America she cleans up vomit in a hospital, and my dad, the smartest man I know, drives a bus for a living. But they always believed if their children became American like I am now, the sky's the limit. And here it is. The sky is on fire. This is it. My year. My shot. Thanks, Hamilton. The exhilaration is almost as good, if not better, as sticking a killer landing at nationals. So that's the ending of the first chapter. So that kind of sets it up actually before she finds out that she thinks she's not going to be able to accept the award because she finds out that her whole family is technically undocumented. And so this is going to change, obviously, everything in her life and what she's worked so hard for. I really like this story. Like I said, I'm on the very last part, so I don't know the ending yet, which I'll follow up with a review afterwards. But I really, really like this book. I like the storyline. I like the fact that it discusses so many things about Filipino culture that I didn't know before. So obviously I read it to learn more about my students who are of Filipino culture. Of course, one person's story is not everyone's story, so some of the things may not be like completely accurate to every single Filipino's experience in America. But I did learn a lot about like the food and some of the customs and some things like that. So that was cool. But also it just describes like how just an immigrant in general feels coming to America and what it's like for those who have the American dream but are considered undocumented. And that's a problem that we're still talking about. So this technically was like during like the Obama administration. You can tell that she's talking about President Obama because when she meets with him, he talks about that his family was, part of his family was from Kenya and stuff like that. So obviously a lot has changed since then, but we're still having these conversations and we still have some of these students in our classes. So I think it's really important for us as teachers to read about it. I wouldn't necessarily teach this book in class. I would recommend it to my students though, because I just think it's a really good story in general. But here's the author's note. So this will kind of solidify like why she wrote this book and why she thinks it's important. And then that will conclude the Mrs. G's reads today. So author's note. Dear reader, while Jasmine's story of being a top student who discovers she is an illegal immigrant is not my story, it is very close to my heart and my experiences. The National Scholarship Award in the book is a fictional creation inspired by the Westinghouse Prize, the Presidential Scholarship, and National Merit Scholarship programs. In high school, I won both the Presidential Scholarship and National Merit Awards. My family moved to the United States in 1985 when I was 13 years old. My father had a business/corporation visa that allowed its owners to apply for a green card after 3 years. During this process, however, our family was scammed by a shady immigration attorney and sadly a friend of my father's who never filed our paperwork with the INS. My father decided to file the paperwork for adjustment of status on his own without a lawyer's help. While we were waiting for approval, I was a senior in high school and applying to colleges. We were unsure if I would qualify for financial aid. My family was here legally, but we did not have our green cards either. My parents assured me that they would find a way to afford college no matter what, but we were hoping that I would qualify for financial aid. Jasmine's anxiety, ambition, and determination are based on my own high school memories, and her passionate love for her country is rooted in mine. Like Jasmine, I was accepted to several elite colleges whose offer of acceptance did not include financial aid. I was starting to get very nervous until the glorious letter arrived from Columbia University granting not only admission, but an incredibly generous financial aid package. Because I was not eligible for the Pell Grant, a federal grant that covers neediest students, the school offered a privately funded grant. Columbia is one of a handful of schools in the nation that offers financial aid to its students regardless of their citizenship status. It is without a doubt that the single most important factor that changed my life and made me who I am today. I am here because of the generosity of wealthy patrons at my private school that funded my education at the Covenant of the Sacred Heart, and the equally generous and far-reaching policies of my alma mater. I have my U.S. citizenship today because of the help of friends connected to congressional leadership and because I fell in love with an American guy. I was over the age of 21 when my parents received their green cards, which put me once again in a legal gray area. This loophole is now closed, and people who were brought into this country as children but are adults with the approval comes now through to receive green cards. After my husband and I married in 2002, I applied for a green card. However, when our approval came, we had moved from New York City to Los Angeles and never received the letter with the date of my interview. My file was marked dead. After I waited for a few more years and asked around for help, one of my best friends from college with ties to a local congressman asked that congressman if he could help pull my file. I was interviewed for my green card in the congressman's office, the equivalent of being moved to the top of a VIP immigration line. 2 years ago, I finally became an American citizen after 28 years in this country. I will be able to vote for the first time in this presidential election. I hope you find Jasmine's story enlightening and moving, and that I have done justice to the story of the struggle so many millions of people experience in their journey to become American. Thank you, Melissa de la Cruz. So, this story is very impactful and very powerful because it's so closely based off of her own memories, and I can feel that because I can feel the passion through this story. So I highly recommend this book. Once again, this is Something in Between by Melissa de la Cruz. Once I finish it, I'll post my review on my page. But if this is something that you're interested in or you liked learning a little bit more about this book, or the character, then be sure to comment on this post and let me know. Once again, if there's any other book recommendations you have for me, I would love to hear them. I have just a couple of more diversity reads, and then I'll actually be switching gears over to some of my more pleasure readings, like my dystopian ones I like and stuff, just to change it up, and that way I can squeeze them in before the school year starts because that's coming up real soon. So if there's anything that you guys want to see in the future on a Mrs. G read or review, then let me know. Thanks for watching this video, and I will see you guys soon. I'm probably going to be switching gears over to one book a week since it's getting closer to the school year starting. So if I can squeeze in another book this week, I will. If not, then I'll just be posting a review this week, and then I will do another Mrs. G's reads next week. Thanks for watching. Bye.